Maintaining operational excellence while prioritizing safety is a cornerstone for successful mining, especially during challenging season. Today's guest has navigated these complex waters as a seasoned mine manager.
Pambili Hlungulu is a seasoned mine manager with over 15 years of experience navigating the toughest challenges in the mining industry. Today, Pambili shares his hard-earned wisdom on steering operations through safety crises and productivity slumps, revealing strategies that mining leaders can use to weather even the most difficult seasons.
Pambili, welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Claudia, for having me. I'm honored.
Sure. So you come from the Eastern Cape and it's not so popular for mining, if I should say. Perhaps share with us your background, your upbringing, and just your journey into the mining space.
All right. Look, so I grew up in the Eastern Cape in a small town called Aiduchwa.
Okay.
You're quite right. There's no mines there. What we have, it's just basically your normal industries, small retail shops, etc.
Sure.
So I grew up there, went to school there, my junior years, high school, went to university in the University of Johannesburg.
Sure.
That's when I did my career in mining. But something, before I even embarked on my career, I was fortunate enough, one of my friend's cousin, he actually started talking about his experience in the mines. And, you know, growing up, yes, we used to see some of our elderlies, they used to go and travel to the mines. We used to have banks, the Teba banks, so they would be in a line. We would watch them, see them go with the bus when they come to Joburg and areas like Velcom, mostly in the hard rock mines. So through his discussions and us just talking about what mining is, he told me there's a different form of engineering, but you're required to have a passion working with people, love the environment, and if you want to change the world, mining is the thing to do. So I think from there on, I never looked back. On the industry, I've got more than 15 years.
Yeah.
And I must say, it's been a ride. It's been a ride, and I'm grateful for the time I've spent.
Mining can be quite dynamic, if I should put it, and not exactly the easiest job. What are your thoughts around that?
So you're quite right. Things change in mining.
Sure.
You know, if you look at the micro scale on a bigger context worldwide, I mean, the world right now, the global transitioning, there's pressure with regards to reducing greenhouse gases.
Absolutely, yeah.
So mining houses are no longer just operating, they have to operate for sustainability.
Absolutely.
They have to consider the communities in which they operate in, the people they operate in, you know, having good strategic partnerships with certain organizations so that you meet the industry or the worldwide, you know, pressures in terms of reducing greenhouse gases.
Absolutely.
There's also pressures within the industry itself.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's not just about any other commodity, but whatever that you mine, you need to be a responsible miner.
Yeah.
So having that, I mean, things change and prices, we know they change. Commodity prices change, coal prices change.
Yeah.
Everything is moving fast. We are in that fast world. We call it the VUCA world.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've been in the industry, as you said, for over 15 years. What would you say are the biggest challenges that one could find themselves navigating in the space? And I mean, what would you want people who want to thrive in the leadership roles to really have a thought of and master and in their journey?
Well, I would say for any upcoming aspiring mining graduate student, the first thing I would advise them is to to work on their management skills, their leadership skills, to be more intentional about it.
Yeah.
You know, mining has got two aspects to it. You know, there is the technical side of things, but also there is the people side of things. But, you know, mining is the business of people.
Sure.
And if you yourself as a leader need to consistently work on yourself, upskill yourself, whether through courses, through training, through mentorship programs, but get to know your first before you can actually get to expect other people to perform around you.
Sure.
Once you get the leader right, everything else is bound to fall into play. And of course, you must know your craft. I mean, technically, in whichever role that you'll be in as you grow through the ranks, make sure that you take your time, spend the time, know what you need to know, because once you're up there, there's no time to go back and actually to want to to learn what you were supposed to learn years back.
Sure.
So you are expected to know the craft, but based off on be a leader, and at some stage have the business acumen skills too, because anyway you are managing a business, but a business of people.
Sure.
So I believe that's the advice I can give.
I don't know if I could call it seasons, but I mean, in the industry, there are times where things go really well. And there's also times where things are not going well. I mean, what can break actually breaks. How do you maintain focus and during times where things are not going your way? And particularly, let's look at the productivity side of things.
All right. You're quite right. You know, mining actually is a call to lead.
Yeah.
So it's a call to lead. So it means that you have good times. So actually the times that you need to invest on is the actual good times. When production is actually well underway and you're performing, that is actually when you build your craft.
Sure.
Meaning that is when you do the actual work. Because that's the peace times. That's when you get to embed your strategies.
Yeah.
But if I can advise anyone out there, I believe there are basic things that you need to do, because once you start producing, it means your craft or your aircraft is actually taken off. But when you need to build in terms of being able to sustain. And how do you do that? You need to plan. So planning has to be the utmost important thing or principle that you do.
Yeah.
So plan everything around you, your safety, your costs, just the business itself. Things must not hit you as a surprise.
Sure.
So I'm not saying you can plan to have a downfall of production, but have a contingency plan in place. Know that it's not always going to be rosy, but have those plans that you can reflect on and ensure that you build on them, and eliminate, surprises.
Sure.
Be very decisive in that moment when it's shifting, when there's turmoil, when there's everything. Leaders must step up and be decisive and be able to lead up and down the chain, because it's not about only the people below you, but you need to aspire confidence to the leaders on top that you still have control of the environment and you are quite confident that things will change.
Sure.
And lastly, if I can say, I think a leader has to be able to practice decentralized command. So meaning that you are in a ship that has chaos, but in that chaos, you alone cannot make it. So you have to entrust others with that same responsibility so that they can manage their small areas, empires, so that at the end, the mind is able to tick.
Look, Pambili, and you would have seen it a couple of times. When the going gets tough, it's easier to break people, especially when you're at the top. How do you build your internal capacity in those good times, which then helps you navigate better when the going really gets tough? How do you build your internal capacity?
I believe one thing that stands out as a leader is you must have processes.
Yeah.
Your starting point when things go wrong is your process.
Yes.
Because your process says, I start from A, I end to Z.
Absolutely.
So in your pitfalls, you have to know where to look when things don't go right.
Sure.
Before you look at people, you assess your processes.
Yeah.
If everything is healthy and your processes is green, then you start looking elsewhere to say, do I have the right people at the right places?
Sure.
But the way you do it, you assess their performance.
Sure.
And you have those meaningful discussions so that you can aspire or cause or influence people to change accordingly. Because many a times as leaders, we first go to people.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, our processes are not healthy. So you need to trust your processes, because that's the only thing that can give you sanity in the midst of turmoil.
And this brings me to this, Pambili. Is mining hard, or we create an environment that we even struggle to function in ourselves?
To be honest with you, based on my experience, reflecting also on these 15 years, mining on its own is not an easy industry, right?
Sure.
Is it hard? Yes.
Okay.
But the one thing that we do as leaders is to also create or add.
Yeah.
Already mining, we've said it is complex. It's hard.
Sure.
But we as leaders, the way we manage, also we create an environment, that people cannot function in and they fail to perform and to be their best.
Let's look at when there is low productivity or performance. It hits hard. It gets personal. You sometimes even reflect and ask yourself whether or not this is cut out for you, or even you are doing well. How do you keep yourself sane when you don't even see the fruits of your labor?
So I believe everything starts and rests with the leader. So ownership for me, what stands out the most is ownership.
Yeah.
You have to own the
The
results.
results. Yeah.
So the results of your team is the reflection of the leader himself or
Yeah.
herself.
Yeah.
So that is
Yeah.
the starting point that lays the ground.
Yeah.
Once you get to know or to own the results of the team, then it means you are well off in the next step of doing something about it. Because if you stay in denial too long and you are busy pointing at other things other than yourself,
Yeah.
you will not have the courage to actually do something about to change the conditions. So the starting point is to own the results. And once you own the results, you have to know as a leader that there is no bad teams, but there can be a bad leadership.
Yeah.
So the leadership then comes to the second point, to reflect on how you have been leading or how a leader has been leading in his different workspace, and challenge yourself constructively. Be willing to have feedback in terms of how is it that you are managing the teams, what is it that needs to change or improve with regards to their leadership. And I believe once you do that, then you can move on to the next steps, where you can apply your processes to improve capability, to inspire confidence in your team, but never forget the people on the shop floor. I believe those can make you or break you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so you have to be able to bring your teams along, be close to them.
Yeah.
Be close to them. You lead with aspiration, not fear.
Pambili, safety is personal to managers. And, I've seen a couple of times where there is something that brings attention to the industry. So it could be a big strike or an incident that is, published in different media houses where people come out blatantly and say, these managers don't care. And I listen to that, I'm like, this is not true. Maybe let's hear it from you as a manager. What does safety of your employees and their well-being mean to you?
So for me, safety is everything. So it starts and ends with safety.
Sure.
We have a saying in the mining industry that safety actually starts from home. It's more of a mental aptitude. You have to be geared up. Every time you wake up, you going to the workplace, you have to be geared up and you live it. So it's not a principle that you can just talk.
Yeah.
You have to live it, because people are able to see through you, through your actions, through how you communicate or not communicate certain expectations with regards to safety. You have to lead it. And it is not something that you can delegate to anyone. You as the leader have to take the call, and you rise and be with the teams and be able to be in their midst, so that you can be felt. So safety is felt, safety is seen, safety is lived.
Yeah. I want to tap in a little bit into your personal space. I mean, as a leader, you have instances where somebody got hurt or injured or whatever case that might have been. Maybe take us through one of the severe ones you've gone through, and from the moment you received the call of the incident.
So obviously, we know we've got families that we have to go to at the end. I mean, those are the people that we look up to. Those are the people that look up to us, our pillars, our bones. So I remember the one instance, I received a call. I was at home with the family. We were actually ready to pack and go on a holiday. Everything was set out. We were ready. And I received this call. It was about 8:30 in the evening. And the news, they were starting to bring the news to my attention to say, we have lost one of our employees. There's been an incident in the mine, and this incident has resulted into this employee being unconscious. We are giving the right support, the medical support, but we will inform you in terms of if there's any changes. I mean, a call like that changes you.
Yeah.
Even in the midst of your family can sense it. They can see it. They can feel it. Remember, I said safety. You see it, you feel it, you can sense it. So that automatically changes the mood. And obviously, you have to break the news in the family to say there has been an incident at work. All I can do now is await for further news. So I received the news to say later on, to say, unfortunately, the employee has passed on. And I must say, I was shattered. I must say, because it's personal. You cannot not feel the pain. And you start replaying the moments to say, should I have been at work, even though it's not your time? Because we know we work from 6 to 3 or 6 to 4. We are day shift employees. We are the managers of the mine. But you start asking yourself, was this maybe a day where I was supposed to be at work, to be there, to be visible? Could I have stopped it? So there are many things that play in your mind. More especially when you are alone.
Yeah.
So that is when you get to reflect. That is when you have to actually go through that process. It's not a process that you can wish to outlive, but it has to take its course. So there is denial at first because it's not easy to accept that you have lost an employee, but you go through the emotional phases, the denial state, the acceptance, and you start picking yourself up. But the most important thing is to have structures that support you, starting from work. Your spouses and everyone around you, they might not know mining per se, but you have to be able to open up so that you can be supported emotionally and mentally. In the workspace, you have to make use of the support functions that are there. If it's through counseling, you have to take that as a manager. You have to take it because you are not a superhuman. At the end, you're just a father and somebody's husband. So even at work, the support structure from the colleagues that you work with, it has to be such that it's people that you can sit down with and you can open up to. If it means at times you cry, then you do that, you cry, but you have to go through the process. You cannot shut off the pain and you just wish that it's not there. So it's a process. It's a painful process, but it's necessary.
Did you cry?
So obviously, when I was alone, yes, there are times when I reflected, and especially at night, when you're about to sleep, you think because something tragic has happened in your life, and you have to reflect because eventually you have lost a soul.
Sure. And the challenge is, Pambili, sometimes it's almost like you've got to be strong, you've got to be present, and you've got to be supportive to everyone, including the colleagues, the employees, and to the families as well. And the challenging thing in that state is that you are equally going through pain yourself, but somehow you've just got to show up. How was that like for you?
So that is the call I made to say leadership is actually a call.
Sure.
So you have to know as a leader that you have to rise to the call. Unfortunately, you are expected to show up. You are expected to be present, but you have to unfortunately stand out and be there for the employees, because there is no time to actually be looking down and to be feeling sad. You have to stand out and be there for your team and be visible for your team. Then on your alone space, that is when you have to deal with the war within. Once you win the war within, the war out, it is much easier.
The challenging thing is, even in our culture, it's almost like we've got all these proverbs around how men don't have to show their emotion. You've always got to be strong and be there for everybody. I mean, the proverbs, it's almost like every culture has got
Men
that.
don't cry.
And safety incidents are honestly taking a huge toll on a mental well-being. What would your advice be to leaders who are, navigating those spaces where they feel like it's almost like they've got to be there for everyone else, but it's almost like nobody's there for them and their mental health is being compromised?
So in that case, what I can honestly say or advise the leaders, is that, as a leader, you can be strong for quite some time, but eventually you will start breaking down. And the impact or the effects of such an experience are actually, they don't happen immediately. It's phenomena that can happen after, months later, years later. And actually it can even start affecting the way you lead. Because I've worked with leaders like that. Years later, the trust is gone. They feel that everyone is up to get them. They feel that people are not doing enough to protect employees in the workplace. So if ever there's any advice, I would say to the leaders, they have to face the war within. Because, a wounded soldier on the battle, you stand a very high chance of losing the battle. So you have to fix the wounds. The wounds have to heal.
Our families and our personal relationships come in handy when the going gets tough, honestly, at work. But the challenging thing is sometimes we reserve the best versions of ourselves to work, and we leave our families to deal with our frustrations, stresses, and that's what they know of us. And a bit of perhaps a card that's always got money. But the honest truth is, when the going gets tough, you need their time and their attention. How important is it to always ensure that we give our families the best version of ourselves, even when things are normal, so that when the going gets tough, you've actually got a family and loved ones to go to.
So you spoke about good times.
Yeah.
So actually, the right time to plant those seeds or such seeds, it's when things are going well.
Yeah.
So we have to remember as leaders that our families are our number one priorities as well. So the family has to be happy so that you can be happy at work, so that also you can transfer the same energy into the workplace. So it is important or crucial as a leader that when things are going well, be with your family, open up to them, let them know. They might not know all your technical, stresses or challenges that you face, but let them know what good is and what bad is in your day to day, so that when there is such catastrophic events in life, in your career, they are able to be that support.
Yeah. How has your family held your hand in the difficult time?
I must say, for me, my wife has been my pillar.
Sure.
She knows not everything about mining, but she knows mining. I remember in my early years, going up through the ranks, I would get calls at home. She would even go as far as knowing who am I speaking to. Even my children would go as far as knowing their names. After the calls, they would repeat the names that you were speaking to so and so, that you spoke nice today to so and so. So the family pays attention to how you speak to other people, because you cannot be a different father at home, but a different leader at work.
Absolutely.
You get what I'm saying? You cannot be a lion at work, but you want to be a lamb at home.
Yeah.
So the best sport that you can ever find as a leader is when you have a balance of both.
What support do you think should be given to leaders to better navigate these spaces? And I'm asking this, Pambili, because after these safety incidences, people just drop their careers altogether and leave. What kind of support should be actively given to the leaders in times of this kind of incidents?
So with my experience, really, I believe that there is not really a program that can be structured or tailor-suited for leaders to prepare for such tragic times or life-changing moments. But leaders have to know that in their life or career or in their journey, there are good and hard times alike. So I believe that having a mentor is an absolute necessity. You must have a mentor in your space, someone that you can look up to, someone that you can share, someone that can also share their experiences. If ever I were to have an opportunity to have someone who is new in the industry, I wouldn't want them to go through what I have gone through. Because the reason why we have such experiences is actually we are meant to share such experiences so that others don't make similar mistakes, or they don't have to go through what we've gone through. So mentorship, I believe, is absolutely critical. And again, in the workspace, leaders have to show up. You must show up as a leader, because when such events happen, you start doubting yourself. I spoke about process. When you have your processes and you've been following them, you can bring sanity to any situation that you face as a leader. So leaders, they need to do what they are supposed to do and lead their people and lead them quite well.
We also have to help ourselves here, Pambili. I've noticed that when things are going well in the industry, you've produced a couple of millions in your career, 1 million tons in your career, and that becomes a mine win. It becomes our thing. But the good, in your personal contribution, you sort of reserve it for your CV. But when an incident happened, you own it so much. It's even named after you, which is a thing that we've got to discuss. And I don't think it's the best habit way. I can just ask you, Pambili, do you remember a fatal that happened in 2014? Oh, that Klochis fatal. Like, it's almost given a name, and that's your name. And I think we sometimes underestimate the psychological impact that has. How do we balance, how do we just move away from this, or at least balance it off fairly with the good contribution we've got in the industry?
No, you're quite right, Loki. So unfortunately, I have experienced this. You're quite right in the industry that, the bad actually has a way of degrading what is good, the good work that the leader does. But I think what will help leaders in the future is small milestones, small successes. You must celebrate as a leader. You must celebrate as a leader, and you don't have to wait for others to appreciate you. You have to appreciate yourself. You have to be honest enough with yourself to say, I have done well.
Yeah.
I've done well. When others see that you are able to appreciate yourself better and you know what you bring in, because such results don't come any other how.
No.
You have to know that you were intentional about what you have achieved.
Sure.
Because when others see that you are able to show that you are able to live that, they can associate that such success with you.
Yeah.
So leaders must never stop celebrating themselves and the milestone that they achieve. Make noise about it. Celebrate them uniquely.
Sure.
Make sure that they are out there, they are known.
Getting the mind outside of a tough situation back to high productivity is a big task. How do you do it? How do you, after a tough season, pull your team back to high productivity periods?
So I have what I call regrouping.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine men sitting around the crawl, you must have those times where you can honestly sit with the team, cause them to think differently.
Yeah.
Be honest enough about where you are and when you're not doing well, so that others can actually see the need. So as a leader, be able to create the need for others to perform, for a cause to change, if I can put it that way. You have to be able to create that cause to change. The only way you can do it is to speak through the heart. Because I tell you, as a leader, working in this past 15 years, no one comes to a workplace or any industry to fail. We have winners. Be able to see your team members as a 10. Even when it is tough, you must be able to see your team as a 10. Remember what I said, there is no bad teams, but bad leadership. So you have to see others as a 10, give them the 10, and then it is up to them how whether or not they improve that scale or they take it down.
I've heard you say a couple of times that, the industry is hard already. And you call yourself this, that I don't want to be another dike. I don't want to be another problem that people actively solve instead of solving the actual problem. How has that helped you in your career, and how do other leaders get to a point where they understand that there's enough problems? I don't need to be one.
It has helped me a lot. So actually the biggest paradigm shift, when the point in my career when I accepted that, mining is already tough. I don't have to and be another stumbling block, a dike as you put it, a stringer as you put it. That was the biggest turning point in my life, because we as leaders set these hurdles for our teams when we are actually supposed to clear the path. Our biggest call as the leader is to be able to help the team solve problems in the best way possible. So if as a leader, I am the one introducing problems or challenges, imagine, then people will stop bringing what? Solutions.
Absolutely.
So in a way, when you act that way as a leader, you destroy solutions, you destroy creativity.
What advice would you give to leaders in the industry that are navigating really tough times, and especially when these tough times are seemingly taking too long?
So in mining, the seasons can be short or long, as you put it. But for a leader, I believe the starting point, I might mention that as a leader, have plans. You must plan as a leader. Have a vision. Stick to your vision. When times are hard, you sit down, you're like, I am not yet there. This is a hurdle. But you have to look within your tools of arsenal to say, what contingency plans do I have? Be willing to ask for advice. There are many of us who have gone ahead that already know the industry, that have lived some of the challenges. In mining, I always say, there is no new problem. These problems that we face, someone has faced. When it gets too much, you need to know who to talk to. It might be a mentor, a coach, but be willing enough to go and submit to someone and actually share some of your frustrations so that you can bring balance to some of the leadership skills that you have. And a leader must know when to manage and when to lead. In crisis, we manage less. We lead more so that we can inspire others to be the best version of themselves. And always as a leader, welcome creativity and innovation.
It's not an easy thing to do, honestly, Pambili, where somebody who is always known to be doing well in high spaces, then coming down to accept that perhaps they're not performing well, they have to go ask for help. How do you do it? How do you bring yourself down to say, I need help?
So the best time to actually ask or seek for help, it is in tough times.
Yeah.
It is when no one else, when it seems like you are alone. Because that's the right time where you as a leader learn. If I can reflect on my career, all my past failures, I can say those moments and those seasons have been actually my turning point. Because in those times and those seasons, that is when either I had to change how I do things,
Sure.
to change how I lead.
Yeah.
It has actually either bred new, help bring in new ideas, new approaches. It has actually maybe even made me to change different, mining methods, etc. It forces you to think out of the box.
Absolutely.
So those times actually as a leader, that is when we grow more.
Yeah.
Through failure, you accept it and know that that is your time to grow.
Pambili, I think we are leading a new generation. Things have changed, and I think there's a way we used to lead in previously that just does not work today. How do we get leaders to understand that and adopt to this and transition as soon before? I mean, it's quite an urgent thing. How do we get the leaders to speed up into this?
Thanks, Loke, for that question. I think my best advice, Loke, or to reflect on this point is, earlier on, as soon as one is done in terms of their varsity studies and you're ready to start in the mining context, there has to be intentional programs.
Absolutely, yeah.
That one has to attend. That will ensure that the very basics or fundamentals of leadership actually get to be addressed. Yes, theoretically, but also it's not enough to just learn the basics of leading in the classroom opinion.
Yeah.
Even in the workplace, us as the leaders that are already ahead, we need to be intentional about how we lead others. So actually, majority of our time, we have to be able to give feedback.
Yeah. Ooh.
If I ever can reflect back on one point that I believe could have made me even a greater person in the mining context, was getting feedback earlier on. Miners are not good with feedback.
Yeah.
We tend to keep things and we hope that someone might change. We hope that someone might actually catch it along the way.
Yeah.
And we want, because of my experiences, I want others to experience the same challenges, the same pain, the same hurdles. It does not have to be that.
Sure.
There's a saying that leaders must be the change that they want to.
Absolutely.
We must be what? Change agents.
Yeah.
But you cannot be that change if you as a leader has not actually ascended to that point where you understand that as a leader, you must be impactful.
Yeah.
You must be influential. You must be able to transform others. Up until you can say that this person I've mentored, and you know what, actually, they have outdone themselves. And how would you see that? They have to be even better than who you are.
Sure.
So up until we are so intentional about how we lead others, how we impact them. Let's not only impart the technical skills. The technical skills are very important, yes, but the leadership skills, they take time. Be willing to spend time with others. Be willing to impact them. Be willing to actually coach them, make them grow, challenge them enough so that the leaders inside of them get to step out.
Sure. How would you say then that mining changed your life?
Well, let me start off maybe with the good side of things.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the quality of life, one has to appreciate, a career like mining, the quality of life that it can bring.
Sure.
Obviously there is benefits to in terms of remuneration for an inspiring leader.
Yeah.
I think the salaries are very competitive to what the market offers.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of the quality of life, I've managed to, not just be a breadwinner at home, but to be able to provide the basic necessities of life for me, for my family, my extended families, the community that I live in. Once as a leader, you can get to not only live for yourself and your family, but impact the community. You must know that you are in the right path. So in that space, I believe that the career itself has actually proven itself, and I believe that's not the end. And I think there is quite a lot more that we can do or get to do as leaders, as we mature in the industry, more especially the communities that we live in. unemployment is still there, crime is still there. Those are the real issues and societal issues that we actually need to rise and address as leaders.
Sure. When you stepped into your senior role, and perhaps let's just even focus on your mind manager role, how was that like for you? Your first day even in the role, how was it like?
So I must say I was filled with joy.
Sure.
Happy to start on a new position.
Yeah.
But I knew one thing with mining.
Sure.
Remember I said with mining, actually there's no new problems or challenges. So knowing that, I was like, okay, I am ready to see what will be different, what will be similar to what I've experienced before.
Yeah.
But I think coming into a new environment with new employees, one thing that a leader that you must always search for is what is it that makes the people tick?
Yeah.
What is the culture in where you are moving in? Because cultures are not the same.
Absolutely.
The problems might be the same. So your first starting point to win or understand is the culture of the environment in which you are moving in.
As hard as it gets, has it ever been so bad that you felt like quitting altogether?
Yes, I have had those moments in my life. And I think they have, in the different levels as you grow in mining, you get to experience them differently.
Yeah.
When you start your career, you don't know much, but theoretically you are there, you are fresh from varsity.
Absolutely.
And I must tell you that no one all the time in mining is going to pet you or tell you what you need to hear. At times people will tell you that, why don't you just go back to your university? We are miners here. We don't have time for you.
Sure.
You must toughen up, you must man up. And, that is shocking for someone who comes from an academic environment into a workplace that is hard, that is rigorous, that seems to be dealing with you as a person. So I've gone through those phases where you also want to please people, in the way you come out. But you get to learn as a leader that, no, I cannot live to please others. I have to be the best version of myself and find ways to navigate around, what the environment brings, what the environment changes. But moments in my life that actually stand out is when it is so personal, such that you as a person and a leader, you are being undermined in a way. So there's a saying that people actually don't leave the work they do. They leave the leaders. That is absolutely true.
Sure.
So if the leader, the relationship is toxic or not, it is not in a state such that one person, you wake up in the morning, you don't feel like going to work and you are thinking about the person. So the first thing when you wake up, you're thinking about your immediate boss.
Yes.
The last person that you think about is your immediate boss. You must know in that environment, people will not stay. People will not want to work for such an organization.
It's important to replenish ourselves, so we can show up as better leaders. How do you balance work and family and some of the things that feed your soul? So
it's a good question that you bring up, Chloe. I must say, earlier on in my career, I struggled with that. So I made mention that, there is this sort of culture that comes into play when you move into a workplace because you want to please others, but you end up not being yourself. So you take the same practice, the same habits home. And at home, you must remember there's a different leader at home.
Yeah.
Our wives, our spouse, they can actually immediately identify when you are trying to be someone that you're not. So be willing to get that feedback from them.
Sure.
And just appreciate it. So that when you get given that feedback, actually that is when you need to make certain changes around your life,
Sure.
And actually get to be yourself.
What makes you look forward to going to work?
My love for people.
Yeah.
I think that comes naturally. I enjoy working with people.
Sure.
I enjoy knowing their issues. I enjoy getting to solve complex issues.
Yeah.
So I believe that as a leader, I've said mining is about people.
Yeah.
So be willing to put a smile on somebody's face.
Yeah.
Even though you are not going to get anything in return. Yeah. So I think that love, that passion for people and that drive and knowing that you have to make a change, you have to get some results out. So I think that's what gets me going.
I think for Pambili, the mineral endowment we've got in South Africa, this is an industry that should actually attract more people. How would you inspire somebody who's not sure about mining and perhaps somebody who is possibly hearing topics around mining for the first time, how would you inspire them to join the industry?
Well, I would say the industry itself has transformed over the years.
Absolutely.
We've got now technology that is coming into play.
Sure.
So if you're a tech geek, you love technology, be rest assured, mining, there is hope, there's a future there.
Yeah.
We're not yet ahead or revolutionized that much compared to the steel industries. So mining is still in the early stages in terms of adopting technology best practices. So if you love technology and that, you'll find it in mining. I've made mention that if you love working with people, you'll find people.
Sure.
If you're someone who likes being in their own space, making their own decisions and having to bring new ideas and plans and innovation, mining is the area, it is the environment in which you can come in.
Sure.
And mostly if you are someone who trusts the processes, because in mining, unfortunately you cannot jump any other stage. You have to be willing to learn from each phase that you're in and just give yourself time. But the industry itself, it is here. It is not really going anywhere. Yes, there is the transition into new energy renewables, but that is going to take time. So as it is, we still need miners. We need to rise to the call, because remember, what we mine benefits the society, not only the country itself in terms of the GDP, in terms of the minerals themselves, but there is a bigger call that we are doing. We provide electricity to the country. There are jobs that we create to the country. You know, we export, we import our minerals. So there is a lot that we do for the country. So if you are that someone that wants to make a change in your country, in your society, in people's lives, then mining is the industry to be.
Sure. Pambili, thank you so much for your time and your insights. And I really strongly believe that it will equip other leaders to navigate better in tough and challenging seasons. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Loche.